When OpenAI released GPT-Image-1, there was an explosion of new AI image generation apps. You might have even had an idea for an app, but didn't quite know how to get started or how to build it. Well, if that's the case, this video is for you. My name's Gerard, I'm the founder of Replit, where I teach people how to build their own apps without writing any code. But I've also built a software business with AI image generation as the core feature. And this business has grown to over 20,000 users. So I know just how valuable building an AI image app can be. And in this video, I'm just going to share everything I've learned about building with AI image generation models so that you can start adding AI image generation features to your apps. Now, this lesson is actually part of a larger course on building AI features into your Replit apps. And that's on replitstack.com, which has all sorts of courses about building apps and businesses on Replit. But in this video specifically, I'll be talking all about AI image generation, how to do text to image, editing image, multiple image variations, the key instructions like subject, perspective, styling, image format, different parameters for your image generation. I'll also be talking about how to enrich prompts with a text generation step before you send the image prompt, as well as some key things to avoid or look out for when you are adding AI image generation features to your apps. As always, I'll be building something live during the lesson to make the lesson a bit more concrete so you can see exactly what to do at each step and how to implement these lessons. So as we've been doing in this course, I'm going to be continuing with OpenAI's API, and we'll be using the GPT-Image-1 model to generate our images. We're going to need this API reference, heading down to this image sections for creating and editing images via the API. Don't worry, we're not writing any code in this lesson or course. Instead, we're going to continue working with Replit agents, giving some key prompts to help us add these AI image generation features to an existing app. The app we're building in this course is called First 100, and it lets new entrepreneurs set a goal to get their first 100 users, customers, sales, reviews, whatever it is. They can set their goal, and it's going to generate these action cards to track daily progress towards that goal. And in this lesson, we're going to be adding some new AI image generation features to this existing app. But as always in this course, we're going to first step back and take a look at the high-level overview of AI image generation features and how to add them effectively into our apps. So similar to our text generation lesson, we're going to ask, first of all, what is the goal of this AI image generation feature? And based on that, we'll be able to decide the desired outputs from that feature, as well as the necessary inputs and how to work with the different model requests, such as creating an image from text or editing an existing image or creating an image variation. But first of all, you need to have a clear idea of what the goal of this AI image generation feature actually is. In our case, we have some action cards that are being recommended to the user. So often these suggestions are about doing some outreach or creating some content to help you grow your first users and customers, which makes a lot of sense. Content marketing is a big part of growth. And naturally, one thing that can make your content stand out is custom images that are on brand. So just to think a bit more clearly about this, how exactly should this feature work? I think the simplest user interface would be just to have a button here that basically says generate content, which might open up a little modal with some settings. So a pop-up modal that would come over the top with settings for things like and any additional parameters that we want to include in our generation. Then we need a way for the user to easily manage the output of that image generation. So I'll probably need a separate tab or page to list all of the user's content. And that in turn is also going to require a database table to store any content that's been generated, including the images that we are creating for that post. All right, let's start with that as our goal. And from there, we can think more clearly about these key questions for any AI image generation features. What are the inputs going to be? What are the desired outputs? And what are the necessary instructions and parameters that we need for this feature to actually work? So first things first, for this simple feature, the only inputs are going to be text, and we are going to be producing an image. But we're going to just start with input as text, output will be image. And maybe later in this lesson, we will explore adding an image to our prompt as the reference. The output is going to be a single image for now, but since we are working with images, We don't actually want to store that base 64 image data in our database as a massive file, because that's going to quickly fill up our Replit's 10 gigabyte maximum limit. Instead, we're going to need an object storage system. And fortunately for this, Replit already has app storage as a tool, so I'll show you how to set that up for this lesson as well. Then our database table is only going to store the ID, file name that's actually stored in app storage, and maybe the content and other things that it is linked to, the user ID, etc. So we need a way to store the images, and we're going to do that with a combination of app storage and a database table. And the next thing we need to think about are the instructions. So when we send this image request to GPT-Image-1, when we create an image via the API, basically what's happening is we are sending a message to OpenAI servers. They will process that request for us using their very fancy, expensive models, and then they will send us back the image results and charge us every time we do that. The way that you send that message has a structure, so you can't just send them any random text. You have to send them a structured API request, and their documentation tells you exactly what fields you need to or can include in that request. So the prompt is the main description that we will be sending. And for image generation, you have a bunch of different parameters like the background, choosing the model, moderation, the number of images to generate. These can all be sent in your request as parameters, specifications for what you will get back from that request. So a major part of the request is the prompt itself. And when I talk about instructions, I'm basically talking about that prompt section of your image request. In my experience, most image generation requests will benefit from using a structure that's kind of like this. We want to have a clear subject for the image generation request. If it's necessary, you want to include a perspective, so maybe side-on view, bird's eye view, macro view, zoomed in view. Perspective is quite important for the image performance. The format is actually going to be a parameter. So the format in the instruction is only useful if you set the parameter to auto. That is, if you want to generate images from multiple different sizes and styles and let the user describe it in their prompt. But for now, we can probably just leave that empty. And lastly, the styling. So this is where you get to really have a lot of input over the end image result, how it will look and feel, the aesthetics, colors, the style. Is it going to be a watercolor or a flat 2D line drawing? Is it going to be an artistic painting? Is it going to be a photorealistic image? Whatever you want to enforce on the image, you can add to the styling section of your instructions. Typically, the subject is something that will either be just the user's prompt. So the user will be writing in something that they want for their image, and you will just use that directly. Or it can be some combination of your fixed instructions plus the user's prompt. So for example, if you always wanted to generate beach volleyball, and then you only wanted to let the user describe the accessories or setting for that beach volleyball, then you could have a combination of the instruction plus the user's prompt. In general though, to start with, let's just stick with the user's prompt. And we're also going to stick with the user's styling prompt. So just by thinking through the instructions, we're already getting a better understanding of what the input is going to be. We're going to need two inputs from the user. We're going to need their subject prompt and their styling prompt. What does that mean? That means we need to have two fields at least in our pop-up, which is going to be one for the subject, and we're going to need another one for the styling. Okay, so enough drawing on the whiteboard. Time to start building this actual feature using Replit Agent. As per usual, I will be sharing the exact prompts that we're using for adding these AI image generation features. But for now, this is quite a specific prompt that is talking through how the feature should work, just as we discussed on the whiteboard earlier. I'm going to set the autonomy level to high, switch off app testing for now, and let Replit Agent start working on this build. I will probably set this up as a few different prompts for you so that you don't have one mega prompt. Instead, you'll need to set up app storage, so I'll have a prompt for that. We also have a bunch of other related prompts in the RepelStack prompts library for things like adding a sidebar, adding new pages. So in this case, we're going to be doing multiple things in this prompt. We are going to be adding that button to generate content on every action card, Click the button to open a pop-up modal where we can enter key details about the image to be generated. I've asked it to only set up the image generation functions for now. We can add the post-writing and article stuff in a future video. I specifically mentioned we need to install Replit's app storage in order to store the image objects. And so I'll let Replit Agent implement that and we'll come back and check on it in a little bit. So Agent has completed those requested changes for us. We can see now there's the generate content button. Let's head over to the full view of this. So we have our generate content button. We have our new content page. And let's just test it out with one of these action cards. So if I hit generate content on this launch beta referral program, we can see, great, we have the content type. These ones are currently grayed out, which is good, it followed my instruction. We have the subject, image styling, and some parameters to set for that image generation, like the quality, the size, and removing background. So if I wanted to just test it out for this action card, launching a beta referral program, create a simple referral flow, draft a clear invite to our initial beta users. So we could create an image for that, create an invitation card for my EdTech software platform's new beta program, make it look like a nice letter invitation, personalized with this name on it, and we could change this for each individual user, make it feel like a nice custom invitation. Let's try in Great Gatsby style for this invitation, make it feel very grand. Of course, let's ramp it up to high quality, and for this I want to generate a landscape formatted image. Let's see if this feature has been implemented correctly and if the image generation is working. What we'll also want to do is head over to the console tab in Replit so that we can check up on the requests and make sure that things are being sent as intended. So we can see here, just very quickly, if I go down to the most recent request, we have a post request. We are sending a message to generate an image, and that has been successfully sent. If we look in the console and we see an error here, typically what will happen is OpenAI will send back an error message with a reason for why the image generation failed. We don't see that right now, so we should expect the image to generate correctly. But if you do, you can always just ask Replit Agent to read through the console logs and correct the error in the formatting, whatever went wrong with the image generation. But there we go, we can see that our content has been generated. So I probably want to update this to take the user to that content. Let's head over to the content page, and we can see that we have our two test images. I tested one earlier as well, but this is our Great Gatsby style invitation. It's showing the prompt, which I like, so that we can reference it. The user can get an idea of what they need to change in future. It shows the style as well as the parameters that were selected for that image. Excellent. So now let's just head over to our database to check up on what's going on in the back end of our app with this new image generation feature. We can see that we have a new database table called content. It has the user profile ID, the ID of the content. It's also linked to a specific action card, which could be useful later. Content type is image. It has the subject, image styling, and all these details. And we can see that it's not actually storing a big image file in here. It's only storing the image path, which is exactly what we want because Replit's Postgres databases have a hard limit of 10 gigabytes. So we can only ever store 10 gigabytes of data in all of our database tables for all of our users. Every strings of text like this take up very, very little storage. So we are safe. We're not going to hit that 10 gigabyte anytime soon. But if we were to start uploading images as their full image file, we would very quickly run into that limit, which is why we've asked Replit Agent to set up app storage. So if you want to find that, just open up a new tab in Replit. So we have these buckets set up. We have a private and a public bucket. We can see in the private images folder, we have our two images, and these are the full files, the 2 and 3 megabyte files. Those are being stored there. And all we need to do in our database is just reference the object path. So Agent has implemented this perfectly. I'll try and add some troubleshooting prompts as well if you get stuck on this. But we now have this content generation feature in our app working. But before we wrap up this video, I just wanted to quickly introduce an example of when you might use the edit image functionality and how you can do that in your apps as well. So what if, for example, we liked this image exactly as it is, but we just wanted to make some specific edits to that image. We didn't want to have to generate a whole new image and hope that it got it in the same style. Well, as well as the create image endpoint, OpenAI also has an image edit endpoint, which lets you give an image as well as a text prompt to the model to then produce an image edit. So we're going to ask Replit Agent to implement a new image editing feature as well in our app. Since we're here, I'm just going to copy this documentation, head over to our Replit chat, and I'm going to paste that as an attachment, and I'm going to ask it for this new edit image feature. What we're going to do is we're going to ask Replit Agent to now want to add an image editing feature. So we've asked it to add a feature to the content page that lets the user click on any image in their content grid, open up a modal where they can view the image in full with a prompt bar at the bottom that lets them add their edit image request. Click a button. I've then provided the GPT-Image-Edit API endpoint documentation. Clicks the button to edit image, and then it will create a new image that is edited based on the user's request. Again, I will be including this prompt below, attached to this lesson. So let's test it out. If I go to my content page, I now see this option to click to edit. All right, there we go. So it's given us the original subject and style, which is good context as well. And we have a clear place to change anything we want about the image. Let's just say change the name from Brad to Gerard. Edit image. Now it hasn't given me the option to select the quality and the formatting parameters. So let's see if it actually distorts this image by trying to use a different format or what's going on exactly. So if I head back to my app, I can see that this has been correctly updated my name, everything else has stayed basically the same. Click to edit, and what has it done? It has given us even a little note about the edited, change the name from Brad to Gerard. Really nice. I like this workflow, very simple, click to edit and you can make changes from here, but it adds a copy without destroying the original image. Just a note on that, for the quality settings in GPT-Image-1, high is going to be really important if you want to have text on your images. As soon as you start using the lower quality image generation, the text generation on the images gets much, much worse. So if you do want to include text in the images you're generating, make sure that you use a high image quality parameter. So we've covered the inputs, outputs, instructions, parameters. The only thing I mentioned at the top was enriching prompts. So one thing that you can do is you can ask agents to add a step to our image generation workflow. So basically what we're doing is we're adding a step between the user's raw prompt and the image generation prompt, which is an enrich prompt step. Now you can use whichever text generation model you like. GPT-5 Nano is really fast and quite intelligent, and the price is quite good, so I typically tend to use that for this step. But basically what we're doing is we're taking the user's prompt and just quickly asking GPT-5 Nano to, hey, the user has worded it like this. Are there any key details that we could add to make this prompt even better? And it's going to send that prompt to the image generation step instead of the user's raw prompt, which might have typos, which may not be as clear as you like. Again, the enrichment step is not necessary for all use cases, but in some instances, maybe adding that enrichment step to your workflow could actually improve the quality of your image generation and make your app stand out from others. So if you want to do that, just add that step with Replit Agent and it will update your image generation workflow accordingly. But as far as the user is concerned, nothing changes on the UI. They don't need to input anything else. As far as they're concerned, it might just take a few seconds longer to generate their image. And that's it. The only other things to add to this video are a couple of warnings. As soon as you add image generation features to your app, watch your API billing and usage very closely. You should expect to see significant costs if you are generating a lot of images, but if you see a massive spike, hundreds of dollars in one day, and it's only you testing your app, it's possible that your requests are being looped or something is going wrong and you are generating more than you intended. And the only other thing to note from experience is never store the base 64 data in your actual database. Again, we want to use Replit's app storage to store the big image object and just reference the file from there in our database table. Otherwise, that's it. That's basically all you need to know to start building your own AI image generation features with Replit. I hope you found it useful. And again, we have a full course on building AI features on repplestack.com, where we also have all the prompts, all of our other courses for building apps and businesses with Replit as the only tool you need. You don't even need to write any code yourself. Thanks for watching.